Hello out there in YouTube land. Welcome to this week's live stream. If you're joining us live today, I put a poll in the chat. Would love to know what your response to that is. That's what we're talking about in today's live stream. I'm Heidi, and I go live every Wednesday at 2:22 p.m. Eastern time. So I hope to see you in a live stream. If you haven't joined before, put your name and where you're watching from in the chat. I would love to know. Hello, Line. Good evening from the mountains in Sweden. I'm on my journey north and found a place with internet connection. I appreciate you taking time to be here out on your adventures. That's so cool. So the poll that I put is when I say yes, but really want to say no, and you could apply this for anything. When I, do something that I don't really want to do, I still do it because I'm afraid of what blank. This applies. I see it. I saw it a lot in my life, and I still, I still have times that disappointing someone is one of my biggest hurdles to overcome. And so, I really have to be careful of that because I can get myself committed into things or, say things that just to appease the other person, to placate them instead of doing what's really feels right for me. So, it's a journey, right? I'm not perfect in this as well, but I want to share with you what I have experienced and come to figure out about this, and then see, where this lands for you. So the choices, when I say yes, but really want to say no, I still say yes because I'm afraid of disappointing someone, being judged as selfish or mean, making the other person angry, or losing the relationship, right? Rejection, or just thinking of losing the relationship completely. I feel like I have something in my eye. So I would love to have you vote in the poll. Which one rings truest for you? What comes up for you when you think about possibly going against what you think they want you to do? So the title of this live stream is to stop caring what other people think. And why is that important to talk about it? Because it impacts us in so many ways, so many more ways than we actually maybe can wrap our head around, our hands around. It can impact our health. It can impact how we show up in our life. It can impact a lot of things. So it's really important to look at this. Where am I changing or morphing who I am in order to, because I care about what other people think of me? And again, if you're just joining in now, would love to have you go answer the poll. When I say yes, but really want to say no, I still say yes because I'm afraid of what blank. And there's 4 choices in there. When was the last time that you agreed to do something that you really didn't want to do? And then after you agreed, or after you did the thing that you didn't want to do, then maybe you were annoyed or resentful or mad at yourself for agreeing to it. When was the last time? It probably wasn't that long ago, right? And it's not that you said yes or you agreed because you wanted to, and those are the times that I'm talking about. It's because of we're afraid of what will happen if we don't, right? What is their reaction going to be? Am I going to feel guilty? And I don't want to have that uncomfortable feeling. What are they going to think of me if I turn them down, if I say no, if I, um, you know, say that doesn't work for me, right? If I speak up for myself and speak my opinion or my what's true for me. So, why do we do this? Lena said, I don't want to disappoint someone I love. And hey, Emily, thanks for being here. I don't want to disappoint someone I love. This is toward my parents. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. That was my biggest hurdle to overcome, was the fear of disappointing someone. And it goes back to childhood when I was um subliminally, it wasn't on purpose. I can see that now, but I was taught to believe that doing certain things would disappoint someone, maybe showing emotions or just acting in certain ways would be a disappointment. I'll tell you a funny story. When I was in, I don't know, first or second grade, I always wanted to do really good in school. And I think I liked being the teacher's pet. That gave me some validation. Lena said it's toward my parents too. Yeah, I know, Lena, you've shared before, some things about that. And if you want to share more about that in the chat, I won't call you out on it unless you want to share. Uh, but so first or second grade, and I guess I got this habit of my hair was long enough, but I wanted it to grow. I wanted to grow my hair out. And uh, my mom kind of refused for a few years, but it was long enough that I could chew on it. And my teacher on my report card, however often they came out, gave me a like a insufficient, or there was a line item that was, takes care of herself or doesn't have bad habits, or I don't remember what the thing was. I probably have the report card somewhere. But she wrote in there, like she didn't give me an A, right? And that was devastating. It wasn't a B or an F or anything like that. It was just like insufficient or something. And she wrote in pencil, Heidi chews on her hair. I will remove this mark when she stops. So it was like, oh my gosh, I disappointed my teacher, the person that I wanted to like dote over me. And, she was one of my favorite teachers too. And so I stopped because I certainly didn't want to continue disappointing her. Silly example, but it's an example how we get habituated into these behaviors in order to keep other people happy, right? To not disappoint them because we don't want to be judged. We don't want to make someone mad. Or maybe we don't want to lose the relationship. We're afraid of them rejecting us so much that we're no longer in relationship with them. A friend, a boss, a coworker, a spouse, a parent, right? So we get afraid of what they'll think of us. And so then we change our behavior in order to change how they think about us. But most of the time, we don't even know, right? We're guessing. And as adults, a lot of this guessing is done based on the past, based on evidence that we have from the past that we're pulling forward into today and living as if it's true now, right? So these are fears that we're pulling based on maybe an experience or a story that we told ourselves about the past, right? My teacher, this is what I probably told myself as a story. My teacher didn't like me because I chewed on my hair. right? It was just a thing that happened. But as little kids in particular, we create all these stories about the events that happen in our lives. And then we live out our adult lives as if those things are true without ever examining them. Hi, Denise. Thanks for being here. Do you go by Denise or Renee? I appreciate you being here and thanks for saying hi. Where are you coming in from? And if you would, oh, it looks like more people voted in the poll. So now it's disappointing someone I love, 67%, being judged as selfish or mean, or losing the relationship, right? Being rejected. So I appreciate you being here. From Kentucky, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. It's good to see you here. I don't know that I've seen your name before, so I appreciate you joining in. And if you haven't voted in the poll, would love to have you vote and, tell us in the chat, like, what comes up for you. Some of the other ladies have said that, it's disappointing someone we love, like our parents, right? And I get that. My mom is 95 now. But like I was just telling that story that, I felt like I disappointed my teacher and I was in first or second grade. But those things, when we're young, especially, get programmed in as truth. I need to take a drink here. And then we grow into adults and we don't ever examine those things that we believe are true. So that's what I want to help you do today, is examine those things. So remember that fear stands for false evidence appearing real. It also can stand for future events already ruined. So think about it. When we fear disappointing someone, and so then we act in a different way in order to not disappoint them, even though we don't know that that is going to be the outcome, but we are using false evidence, right, to determine how we act. We don't know. We're making it up, basically, in our head. So this fear ends up running the show in our lives. And we all, if you're human, we live in fear, right? We don't have to, but that is a very human thing because it comes from the ego. It comes from feeling like we're separate, that we don't belong in whatever way, and being rejected or disappointing someone would definitely indicate, we think, that we don't belong. And that goes back to caveman, cavewoman days when we had to belong, right? In order to stay safe, in order to stay, in order to survive and stay, like I said, safe. Disappointing is something I've always struggled with. My nature is to help, but it results in being taken advantage of, right? I've had to learn to set boundaries, which makes me feel mean. So it's like this, it's this vicious cycle, right? I don't want to disappoint someone. So then I help, and then I feel taken advantage of. And then, so in order to not feel taken advantage of, I set boundaries, which makes me feel mean. And then we just go back to the beginning of the cycle again, right? And so I'm hoping today this live stream will help you break out of that cycle, at least occasionally, right? Because we're not going to just overnight wake up and say, I don't have this fear anymore, right? We have to, because it's conditioned into the subconscious mind. So the reason it's important to talk about this is because these things, these fears that we live by, not wanting to disappoint someone and then feeling mean and always doing what we think is best for the other person so that they will think about us in a certain way, it costs us our voice. We edit ourselves before we even speak, or maybe we silence ourselves because we don't want whatever we fear will happen, right? We agree when we don't actually agree. We say yes when we don't really want to say yes, right? That costs us our voice. We stay silent when when we think we want to avoid conflict. And I am creating a new video, a long form video for my channel, not a live stream, on conflict avoidance, because I think many times in the chat people say I hate conflict, right? Or in the comments of my videos, I hate conflict, I don't want to argue. And I'm talking about in that video how, again, we morph ourselves in order to avoid conflict, and that steals our voice. It also steals our peace. Someone said, oh, Altiagra 9190 said, hi, hello, thanks for being here. Where are you joining us from? I would love to know. So it steals our peace also when we allow ourselves to, or when we morph ourselves into somebody that we're not, in order to make sure that we don't disappoint someone or that we're not judged. Oh, Romania, thanks for being here. I appreciate you being here and watching. It steals our peace, right? We end up managing their emotions. We're afraid to disappoint them. We don't know that we're going to disappoint them, but we act in a way that is different than we actually want to, in order to keep the peace, in order to manage their emotions, in order for them not to be disappointed, in order for them not to get upset, in order to not lose the relationship, right? So we manage their emotions. We end up like running mental math on keeping the peace, right? What do I need to do? How do I need to behave? How do I need to morph myself? Who do I need to change into? What mask do I need to wear in order to not disappoint them? And it's this constant, for me, I had a bunch of groups of people that I would act differently with each one. And it was, even though I wasn't logically thinking, okay, who do I need to be with this group? Who do I need to be with that group? But it was this mental math that was always going on behind the scenes in order to keep other people happy. And how many times have you laid awake replaying a conversation in your head? Oh my gosh, what was that look they gave me? Did I disappoint them? Did I hurt their feelings? Are they judging me? Was I selfish? Was I mean? Right? Like you said, Denise, that then you're setting boundaries and then you feel mean for doing that. Oh, I feel like I'm going to sneeze. Emily said, I replay conversations all the time. Denise said, all it does is give them peace, but my peace is non-existent. Exactly. Exactly. You're placating the other person in order to keep them comfortable. You think that it's keeping you comfortable too, but it's not. It is stealing your inner peace. And ultimately, I think it was last week or the week before, I did the live stream on how these behaviors actually impact our health. They lead to autoimmune disease. And I'll just share this real quickly. 80% of all autoimmune diseases, like rheumatoid arthritis, MS, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, what is it when you get achy joints, fibromyalgia, all 80% of all autoimmune diseases occur in women. And that has been traced back, like why so much in women? It's been traced back to people pleasing. There is research that is done on it. So these things, replaying conversations, trying to keep other people happy, being, caring what other people think, and then morphing yourself because you don't want them to think a certain way, managing their emotions. This is causing disease in women. Not that it doesn't in men as well, but women are more of the caretakers. More percentage, a bigger percentage of women are the nurturers and therefore the people pleasers. Okay, Denise said all it does is give them peace, but my peace is not right. I replay conversations all the time. Denise said, me too. And Lena said, me too. I guess we're all in agreement, right? We lay in bed like, oh my gosh, why did I say that? How can I make it right? Right. And then we use all this energy worrying about it. There was something that happened last week. I made a little offhand comment to someone. I don't even know that they heard it. And I saw this person yesterday, and part of me wanted to apologize for it. And then I'm like, you know what? I didn't do it on purpose. I don't know that they even heard me. I don't think they did. And I've spent I didn't spend a lot of energy, but I spent some energy on thinking, "Oh my gosh, I did something wrong. I hurt them, blah blah blah." When I think it just went over their head. Right? I don't, not over their head, but they didn't hear it. Not that that makes it right or wrong, but it wasn't it wasn't a hurtful comment. It was something that I then started replaying in my head. It was one short sentence, and I started making meaning out of what I actually said and turned it into this whole convoluted thing that made me start going down this rabbit hole of I did something wrong and they're going to not like me. They're going to reject me. When in reality, it wasn't even a thing. It wasn't a thing. So we ruminate, right? Lay awake, replaying conversations or during the day, thinking, oh, I need to go back and make it better and change it and whatever. You know what? If I hurt their feelings, if they did hear what I said and it came across as mean or hurtful, then it's their responsibility to come to me and say, hey, when you said that, that hurt. Is that what you meant? Is that what you intended? That's their responsibility. But we end up making it our responsibility to always make sure everything's right, to make sure everybody's okay, everybody's happy. Right? Denise said, I overthink those situations too, and my anticipatory anxiety really kicks in. Right? It's that false evidence appearing real. It's so that's partly, and I think I have this in my notes to talk about, but I'll talk about it now. So that's partly what the brain does, right? The subconscious mind is responsible for keeping us safe. It's what makes our heart beat. It's what makes us breathe. It's what makes us perspire and digest and all of that, right? And so its job is to keep us safe, to keep us alive. And when we have lived in a way that we're on constant alert for what people think about us, right? When we're on constant alert, we are basically in fight or flight a lot of the times. If we're on alert for, did I say something wrong? Are they going to take this the wrong way? Whether preemptively or after the fact, right? But when we live in that and we allow it to run the show, that is fight or flight. The body is not in its healthiest state when the nervous system is in fight or flight. And then it just cascades. So if you can start, and I'm going to give you some exercises, some tools to be able to um, recognize, be more aware of when you're overthinking and being able to calm yourself, relieve yourself of that anxiety. Fear is never going to go away, right? But we have to teach ourselves that we don't want it to be always in the driver's seat. Fear has a purpose, right? If you're walking down a dark alley, fear has a purpose. The purpose is to be on alert, right? But we shouldn't live our lives day to day on alert. But when we care what other people think about us, we are living on alert, just like we're walking down a dark alley. The subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between real and imagined. So if you're imagining a poor reaction or someone getting angry or you're being judged or that you're going to disappoint someone, if you just are imagining it, the subconscious mind thinks that it's actually happening. It doesn't know the difference. And its job is to keep you safe, to keep you alive. So it's going to automatically put you into fight or flight. That's the process we need to interrupt, right? Because you fearing someone, disappointing someone is not a true danger, right? It's not something where you need to be in fight or flight. So I'm going to give you some tools in a little bit to help you with that. So again, what's it costing you? Your voice, your peace, your identity, right? You've been what everyone else, what you think they want you to be, because most times we're not told to be this way. We maybe were taught when we were young, don't speak up, it's not right to say no, blah, 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 all those things, right? But as adults, has another adult told you, don't say no, right? Or is it just programmed in that you're going to disappoint them, just like me? It was programmed in that acting certain ways was going to disappoint someone when I was young, but I'm an adult now, right? That programming is just that. It's just a pattern that I've lived. So we end up identifying with who we've been for other people, and we don't even end up knowing who we are anymore. And then it takes time and energy. It is freaking exhausting, right? To constantly be on alert for what other people are going to think and to constantly morph myself to be the chameleon and do the shape shifting in order to be perceived in a certain way. That is exhausting. Hey, in the Rockies. Emily said, let's see, let's go back. Emily said, when I think I said something that was rude and I think the entire day, oh my, they heard me. And when I go and apologize, the person said, oh, you're fine. You weren't rude at all. Yes, I just read a Reddit post that kind of speaks to that. And my new video that's coming out speaks to that as well. When we apologize in that way, because they never came to you and said, that was rude. You made that up in your head, right? And then you went and apologized. We go and apologize in order to get validation, in order to get approval from them. Were you really, because there was nothing to apologize for, you did nothing wrong. You made the story that you were rude, but that comes from past programming that was rude, right? That comes from always thinking you need to keep everybody else happy and say exactly the right thing and do, exactly what you think is best for them, always keeping them happy. So that puts the burden on the other person to go and apologize for something that you didn't even do wrong, because then they have to soothe you and say, oh, you were fine, you weren't rude at all. they have to validate you, which makes you feel better then. But there was nothing wrong to begin with. You did nothing wrong. You weren't rude. And if you were, it was their responsibility to come and clear that up with you, not for you to take it on. We have to stop diminishing ourselves and taking on that I did something wrong, that I'm the lesser of the person, and therefore I have to take on what I think they're experiencing. Okay, Emily said, I have bad anxiety too, being with. So when I think I said something wrong, my anxiety gets even worse. Right. But again, that is just past programming. And it's your responsibility to start catching yourself when it's happening instead of going down the rabbit hole of, I did something wrong. Now, how do I correct it? Right? Instead, it's, wait, did I do something wrong? What did I do wrong? And if I did something wrong, then they'll come and tell me. I'll give them the agency, the autonomy to come and tell me. That's how we build relationships. That's how we build stronger relationships, is by having allowing the other person to have their agency over their own emotions and taking agency over our own emotions instead of making them soothe us or us trying to soothe them. In the Rockies said, I had a guy friend stop talking to me. I only stood up for myself. I'm torn between I did the right thing and I should apologize. It's a stupid reason to lose a friend. He won't talk about it. I hate to say it, and you're right, but you can't make someone talk about it, right? And if he can't tell you his truth about it, then there's nothing you can do. If you know that you only stood up for yourself, that you did it, in a kind way, that that you weren't mean or you didn't explode or whatever. A lot of times we get pushed into that corner. And so I understand that. I've definitely been there. But if you have tried repair and the other person doesn't, then that's all you can do. That's absolutely all you can do. But I get it. You did do the right thing by speaking up for yourself, standing up for yourself. You're torn between I did the right thing and I should apologize. What did you do wrong? I would ask myself. And if you'd put that in the comments in the chat, I would love to hear, like, what does your ego, it's usually the ego, what is the ego telling you did wrong? I would love to know so I can further that. It is a stupid reason to lose a friend, but you know what? That's his choice. And again, we have to give other people in our lives the autonomy to make their own choices versus trying to talk them into something or talk them out of something. If they said no, or, I don't want to talk about it anymore, then that's his choice, right? We have to allow other people their choices. We have to make our own choices. And I know it hurts. In the Rockies said, I'm tired of thinking about it. I did nothing wrong. I should be proud of myself, but it's costing me a lifelong friendship. You know what? I'm sure you've heard the saying, people come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And maybe he wasn't meant to be a lifelong friend. And I know that hurts. He was your friend up until this point in your life, right? But he was a friend that maybe you could look at, what is the lesson in this for me, right? What is the lesson for me in him not wanting to talk about it? What do I have to learn about myself through this experience? Dr. John Day Martini, I've talked about him in other videos and live streams. He talks about how when we put someone else on a pedestal, we're diminishing ourselves. And when we put ourselves on a pedestal, we're diminishing someone else. And I'm not saying that you're putting yourself on a pedestal or that you're putting him on a pedestal. But basically, his whole theory is that everything has a polarity. We have shadow sides and we have light sides. And without one, there isn't another. So without this experience, it doesn't make him a bad guy. It is an experience that you can learn something about yourself through it. So, what could be that thing? Just like my ex storming out on New Year's Day in a rage, blaming me for having an affair, which was the farthest from the truth. And even though that sucked in the moment, right? And I never spoke with him again. We got divorced. I filed for divorce a few months later. And in the moment, it sucked. And I really cared what other people thought. Like, that was my third divorce. So I was really caring. I was really holding on to what were other people going to think? His dad was very much on his side. And what is this doing to my reputation in his family, right? And I went through all of those things. But now I can see on the other side of it that it was the greatest gift that he could have given me to storm out then, because I realized not long after that that was the brick to the head that I needed, the final brick to the head. Like I said, I'd been in 2 marriages prior to that, and I thought I had gotten my lesson, but I hadn't. I hadn't gotten the lesson until that happened. And that lesson was that I am the common denominator. I'm the common denominator in all of my relationships. So what is it that I was doing that was attracting not a type of person, but was getting me into relationships that weren't completely healthy, that weren't fulfilling me, that were causing me to people please and to acquiesce and to not show up as my full self. And that's when I went to work on, all of this. Like, what am I doing? How am I creating this in my life? So that was a long answer in the Rockies for, you know, it costing you a lifelong relationship. But what is the lesson in it for you? The positive takeaway, the gift that you can see for yourself, about yourself in this relationship that maybe will help you go into relationships differently. And I'm just saying relationship as a general term, right? Not a romantic or intimate term. Emily said, my mom always tells me, if you hurt someone's feelings, let them come to you, right? Because you don't know that you hurt their feelings. You are making up that story based on what you think, how you think you need to behave, or what you now think people think about you. Lena said, in the Rockies, could you maybe ask him if he might have misunderstood you in any way? It could be that he took it in a way you didn't mean it at all. In the Rockies says, my ego tells me that I was too harsh in what I said. You know what? The ego, we we make up our ego. It's based on past, it's based on fear, and the ego knows that it's made up, and it knows that it needs to prove itself right in order to survive. So your ego is telling you, and that's great wording, great recognition, that you were too harsh in what you said. Again, if you were too harsh and he was a really dear, good friend who has done his own work, right? And or is willing to do his work, he would come to you. He could come to you and say, wow, this is really hard to say because we haven't had these kind of conversations before, but what you said felt really harsh and dismissive to me. Until he does that, there's nothing more you can do. Maybe this is his lesson, right? In that he's not going to have healthy relationships until he looks at how he's showing up, right? So let's see if we can find the lesson in it. Emily says it hurts when you do stand up for yourself and you lose a lifelong friendship. Yeah, absolutely, it hurts. When I stand up for myself, I tend to be harsh and more mean. I don't like that about me. So I would ask you, Emily, are you harsh and mean because you've waited so long to speak up? That's what happens when we morph ourselves and we people please and we behave in ways that then we get resentful about because they're not reciprocating or they're not seeing what I need. They're not giving me what I need, in quote or in parentheses, because we're not telling them what we need, right? But we end up taking that on and building up resentment. And then it gets to the point when we do speak up for ourselves, it comes out harsh. It comes out as an accusation. It comes out as an explosion. It comes out emotional, whatever it is. And I am speaking from experience. I am not pointing the finger at all. So, Emily, I would love to know. Yeah, I've waited so long to stand up for myself. Exactly. So, sometimes what happens when we have not stood up for ourselves for so long, for so many years, right? For all of our life, then suddenly we're like, oh shit, I need to start speaking up for myself. I need to start standing up for myself. I want to be more clear and whole about who I am and what I need. But what happens is then the pendulum swings all the way to the other side. That can happen. It doesn't automatically have to happen. But that happened with me, right? I never said no. I never set boundaries. And then I would get pissed off at them for taking advantage of me, for for not knowing what I need, for not meeting my needs, for whatever. And then it would come to a point where it was an explosion because I couldn't keep it in any longer, right? But once I figured out, oh my gosh, this is something I want to change about myself. I don't want to feel this pent up inside. I don't want to have these harsh reactions. Then I swung to the other side and started saying no to everything, right? Like I kind of cut people out so that I could kind of figure out, I think, what felt okay. Who was I really without all this people pleasing and without the mask that I had been wearing? So it's easy to swing to the other side, but the goal would be to come back to the middle somewhere in, healthy reactions. Emily, I don't like that about me. Yeah. So let's look at, how can we, instead of just beating yourself up for it and saying, I don't like it about me, right? How do we shift it? Denise said, It's because they don't like the new person you've become who sets boundaries. They walked all over you for so long, they don't know how to process the new you. Yes, that can very well be a part of it, right? And some of those people may fall out of your life because they were only in your life because of who you were for them. I've waited so long to stand up for my, yeah. In the Rockies, thank you for your knowledge and help. I'm learning so much from your videos. I'm so happy you are. We have more votes, but still disappointing someone I love is still the leader at 62%, being judged as selfish or mean, 25%, and losing the relationship, 12%. So nobody's afraid of making them angry or upset. That's interesting. Okay. So caring what people think or people pleasing, right, is not a personality trait. It's not just who you are, Emily, right? It's it's not it's not a trait, a characteristic of you that you need to dislike, and you can't beat yourself up enough that you'll change it. That's never worked, right? Not liking something about ourselves doesn't change it. That it has never worked. It's not just who you are, right? To care what people think. It's not a thing. It's a fear response. So it's based on like the fears that are listed there. Those are actually fears. The fear of disappointing someone, the fear of being judged, the fear of their reaction, right? The fear of losing the relationship or of rejection. Those are all fears. The fear of not being good enough, the fear, I could go on naming fears. Caring what people think is all based on a fear. And the root goes back to one question: what will they think of me? Right? What will I think of me? Maybe Emily, you're asking yourself that question, right? Like what do I think of me? I don't like thinking of myself this way. Well, then let's figure out how to make that different. What happened here? Trying to get to my notes. So how do we start to shift this? In this book, Loving What Is, she says, our parents, our children, our spouses, and our friends will continue to press every button we have until we realize what it is that we don't want to know about ourselves yet. They will point us to our freedom every time. So in the Rockies, how has his reaction to you, how is that pointing to your freedom? Where did you give up your freedom? Ooh, I just got goosebumps. Where did you give up your freedom to maintain that friendship? That's a great question to ask yourself. So name the fear underneath the yes. When we say yes, and then we feel dread about it, or, you can put it to the situation that happened, like you think you were too harsh, right? And then you're ruminating about it. Stop and ask, what am I afraid will happen if I don't repair this? Or if I say no, if I don't say yes? What am I afraid will happen? And get specific. Don't be like, okay, I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint them. I'm afraid I'm going to be judged. Get specific. They'll be upset is not specific enough. Upset, then what? What's the worst case that you're actually imagining. And if while you're here and thinking about this, if something comes up for you, I'd love for you to put it in the chat. Like, Line, for instance, if you're still here, like, what what are you afraid will happen if you say no? What's the worst case that you're actually imagining? That's the real fear. When you can name the worst case, like, my parents will disown me. Um, when you can name that worst case, then we can start moving forward from there, because that's where the pattern is coming from. Remember that our brain, it's just creating an ending that hasn't happened yet. So when we have a fear about something, I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint them. I'm afraid of losing the relationship. I'm afraid of being judged. The story isn't finished yet, right? Because we haven't done the thing that tells us whether or not what we fear is going to become a reality. So what happens, though, the brain doesn't like that not having an ending, because the brain is a predicting machine. And so it creates an ending, or you could say it's your ego. It creates an ending that is usually not favorable, right? To keep you safe, because remember, the brain's job is to keep you safe. And so it says, nope, we don't want to go there, because I predict something bad is going to happen. I predict danger, right? Any of those fears are danger. And so then you don't do the thing. You don't say no. You say yes instead. You don't speak up. Maybe you ruminate, and then you've ruminated for so long and stuffed it down for so long that instead of speaking at the beginning your truth about something, you wait and then explode and speak harshly about it, right? Because again, the brain is creating an ending that doesn't seem favorable. And so we don't do the thing. We don't move forward with what we know, maybe deep down, is best for us and our well-being. We care about what they think first versus how is this impacting me? So again, get specific about what's the worst case you're imagining, and then start thinking about, is that actually true? Or am I just imagining this? Is this just a fear coming up for me? So recognize this story, right? Like, actually sit and live out the story that you're telling yourself, and really put some reflecting time on, do I have evidence that this is what's going to happen? Or is this a story that my brain is creating in order to keep me safe? In the Rockies, you survived him, ending the relationship, right? You're still here. You're still alive. You're still surviving. You didn't die from that, right? I don't know what your worst case was with that, but you now have evidence that you can speak your truth. An unfavorable outcome might result, but you lived to tell about it, right? And there's a lesson there to that. Again, our brain goes back to, because what we've patterned in for so long, if I say no, She'll think I don't care. So what I want you to start doing is asking yourself, is that true? Do I actually know that? And remember again that fear stands for false evidence appearing real or future events already ruined, right? Not speaking up, not being, not living in our own, with our own autonomy as the person that we want to be, then we have, we're ruining future events because we are reacting in ways that aren't true to who we want to be. We're not showing up as our full, genuine self. So you can use what Byron Katie says is the work, and I've linked this book down in the description of the live stream and or the replay if you're watching on the replay. So the work is questions that you ask yourself. The first one is it true? Is what I'm imagining actually true? Is, if I say no, she'll think I don't care or she'll reject me. Is it true? Is it absolutely true? Answer that question first. Then the next question is, how do I react when I believe that thought? How do I end up showing up when I believe that she thinks I don't care, or that they're going to get angry, or that I'll lose the relationship? Let's see, did I miss some? Emily said, since my parents love me so much, I don't want to disappoint them, because if I do, they'll love me less and disown me, and then I won't have a close relationship with my parents. What is the evidence? If they love you so much, there's nothing that you can do to disappoint them and make them disown you. So that is a story that your ego is telling you is true. And it's absolutely not true. If what you say is true, that your parents love you so much, unconditional love, which I would say what that means. They love me so much. They love me unconditionally. That means without any conditions. Nothing I can do would disappoint them. But what you're saying is they love me conditionally because there are things I could do that disappoint them. And then those, how many disappointments do you have to make before they disown you? Like, is it 10? Is it 20? Is it 1? Right? How many strikes do you have to have against you before they'll disown you? That is all a story that you're telling yourself. Why? What is the reason? How do you get to show up when you believe that story? That is a great question to ask yourself. How do I show up? What is the second? There's something called secondary gain. You can go look it up. It means that I'm gaining something by playing this role. I'm gaining something that's not apparent to me by playing out this story of that they love me so much that you don't want to disappoint them. How does that make you show up in your life? I would guess like you show up smaller than, right? You show up diminished. You think you're not good enough, right? But there's a secondary gain that you're getting from doing that. And that's what I would love for you to, sit and reflect on. What are you gaining by believing that story? In the Rockies said that I'll lose my friend. He also said he would match what I saved for my grandson's first car. I'm a single grandma. Oh, I remember that. Raising my grandson and could use the help. Um, then I would speak my truth about that. I would say to him, "Hey, I understand that our relationship is not," and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but a suggestion would be, our relationship is not what it was, but, or, and, um, you committed to something that I would like to find out from you. Um, do you plan on following through on that commitment? That doesn't mean we need to repair our relationship, but I could really use the help. Put it in you terms, I, right? Not like you did this and now you're not doing that, right? Don't point the finger. Just say, I was really depending on that help and I would like to get clear. Is that going to happen or not? So that I can move forward in the way that I need to move forward. That's what I would say about that. And I'm sorry that that happened to you. It sucks, right? But again, like what is the lesson here? Denise said, at work, I work in a highly political environment where dancing around personalities is absolutely necessary. My fear is I will be fired. I'm an overachiever, so I say yes and burn myself out. What is that gaining you, right? So the questions, is it true? Is it absolutely true that you'll get fired? We don't know that, right? I understand that it feels true to you. And I was fired from my job, so I understand. I will say that that was another gift that was given to me, was being fired. Walked into work one day, walked out an hour later without a job, like completely blindsided by it. Um, so is it absolutely true? How do you react when you believe that thought, right? You are pushing yourself to the limit in order to please other people, in order to keep your job. You are burning yourself out. That is impacting your health. I can say that with 100% certainty. There's no way that that is not impacting your health. It's probably impacting your sleep. It's impacting the way you eat, possibly, how you take care of yourself. You're already not taking care of yourself by staying in a toxic environment. I guess I said it was toxic. You didn't say it was toxic, but if we're having to dance around people because we can't speak our truth because of a fear of something, that is basically toxic. Not saying that they're necessarily toxic, but it's toxic for you, right? Like for a smoker, for instance, they may not think that their smoking is toxic to them. And that's their prerogative, right? They keep smoking. Being around a smoker for me is toxic. I'm not calling them toxic. I'm saying that that environment is toxic to me, right? It makes me foggy. It makes me like gag. It makes me not sleep well. It stains my, clothing and my nose and my hair. Um so yeah, like just because it doesn't feel toxic maybe to your coworkers, maybe they're fine with it, right? But if it is impacting you to the point of you're burning yourself out, that I would call a toxic work environment. Lena said, is difficult to answer, but once I set a boundary and she started crying, we've talked about it and we're good again, but I really don't want to make her cry again. She's afraid of not being prioritized. Interesting. Okay. Um, then it, oh, that's a deep one, right? First, it's in a way, it's not your job to prioritize her, right? But it if you want to have a relationship with her, then there has to be, it's not, what I should say is it's not your job to make her feel prioritized, right? But if you want a healthy relationship with her, it is beneficial for you to prioritize her in your life. Maybe there needs to be a conversation around, what does that look like for you, for her? I mean, so you have a conversation. I know you want to be a priority, and that you have a fear of not being a priority. What does that look like for you? Or what things do I do or don't do that add to that or subtract from that? A great thing for both of you to do, Line, would be to take what's called the primal question assessment and find out. I think maybe you and I have talked about this already. Find out what your primal question is and what her primal question is. And then I can help you sort through that, and how you can, because she has a fear. We go back to our kid logic that tells us, oh my gosh, they're not answering my primal question with a yes. Like, my primal question is, am I loved? If I sense from somebody, and this is just kid logic, it's not my adult brain, it's my child speaking. But if I sense from somebody that I'm being dismissed, or that they're indifferent to me, then that's a no or maybe answer to my am I loved, right? And then I will go into behaviors to turn that around to a yes. And most of those behaviors for me are people pleasing, right? Caring what they think, making sure they're happy, all of that stuff we've talked about. So her primal question may be, am I loved or am I wanted, right? And so she's getting, again, it's not your responsibility, but it helps to know what her primal question is, so that you can help answer it with a yes, that she doesn't feel dismissed or not wanted or not prioritized by you. It's not a thing where we're placating the other person. It's where we're understanding. Have you ever said, I don't understand why they did what they did, right? They did what they did for whatever reason. Like in the Rockies, I don't understand why he won't talk to me. Maybe he's getting his primal question answered with a no or a maybe, and that's making him behave in ways to change it to a yes. I don't know. We don't know. But it helps to know what each other's primal question is, so that we can start, no matter who they are, coworkers, bosses, parents. I had my mom do it, and hers is, am I wanted? She's a 95-year-old woman. I want to make sure now that she knows she's not invisible, that she's not disregarded, right? She's 95 years old. She lives alone. I want her to know that she's still wanted and needed on this earth. Denise said it's toxic. Okay, so Emily said the stories that my ego tells me, it's all lies, right? Exactly. Why are you continuing to believe those lies? Or maybe that was just a recognition sentence that you had right now. But if we can remember that the ego is telling us lies, right? They're all lies, especially the ones that don't serve us, right? The ones where we're living in fear, where we're burning ourselves out, right? They're all lies. Emily said, my workplace was toxic, always walking on eggshells. I had to get out of there, and I did. Good for you. Denise said, if things don't change here shortly, I'm coming to that realization. Line said, what you say makes so much sense. That's a hard sentence to say. Did I get all the, um I think I did. Thank you so much for being here and being in the chat. I have just a little bit more. So, the work. I highly recommend that you grab this out of, from the link. That is an affiliate link, so I earn a couple cents by you, but it supports me in doing the work I'm doing. But she talks about how to go through the questions, and then she gives you tons of examples of her working with other people throughout her life, using this to change these horrific thoughts about other people into a place where you can see the lesson, where you can see the message that this situation or that this event or person brought to you. So the questions: is it true? Is it absolutely true? How do you react when you believe that thought? How do you react when you believe the thought that I need to, do what I can't remember what you said. So that I need to say yes, right? How do you react when you believe the thought that you're going to be fired if you don't overachieve, right? Who would you be without that thought? You'd probably, like, I can feel everybody taking a collective deep breath right now, right? Who would we believe? Who would we be if we didn't believe that thought? Who would you be, Denise, if you didn't believe the thought that I have to overachieve or I'm going to be fired? Who would you be if you didn't believe that thought? Lena, who would you be if you don't believe the thought that you're going to make her cry? Who would you be without that thought? And then, can you see a reason to drop that thought? Can you see a reason to drop it? Can you find one stress-free reason, and stress-free is the key, to keep that thought? What is a stress-free reason to keep that thought? Usually there isn't one, right? What's a stress-free reason to hold on to that thought? And that goes back to that secondary gain, where we usually keep the thoughts because we're gaining something from it. We get to play small. We don't have to show up. We, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of these things are hidden in our blind spots, right? We don't, until today, maybe you didn't recognize something that now you recognize. We have lots of blind spots. Oh, Emily said that was a realization. And BRRR2322. Hello. Thanks for being here. So we have so many blind spots, things that we can't, that we just can't see. And what we can't see, we can't change. Whatever your realizations were today during the live stream, before you had them, you could do nothing about them, because just like a car driving in your blind spot, you don't know that it's there. You can't do anything about it. We have fears that are so old, so automatic, that we don't even recognize them as fear anymore. They are just there. It's just the ego, driving the bus, driving the car. They feel just like you, like your personality, like you're being a good person, by always saying yes, Line, in order to not make her cry, right? You feel like that's your responsibility. It's just who you are, to be the good daughter, to be a good person. And that's exactly why knowing what's hidden in the blind spots matter. And in my membership, the Inner Circle, which I looked again a couple of days ago, and YouTube was offering it for a month for free. It's only $6 a month to begin with, but there is a video in there now that helps you find your blind spots. So it takes you through a blind spot assessment that I created that will help point out some areas in your life where maybe you are, for example, being communicating assertively, not aggressively, but assertively, taking care of yourself. Those are two of the categories I can think of. Another one is self-worth, right? How much are you beating yourself up and thinking that that's going to change things? Taking that assessment will show you an area where it would be beneficial to start um, shifting some things, looking at some things in your life first, because you'll get the biggest impact in that area where you rate yourself the lowest. So, would love to see any of you in the membership that feel called to that. There is another video. There's actually 3 videos in there total now, and I plan to continue to add videos regularly into that membership. You can stay in. Emily, once I get a job, I'll renew my membership. Cool. You can stay, come for a month, watch the videos that are in there, stay for a month if that's all that works for you. Or you can, stay for as long as you want. But again, you might check it out because YouTube has been offering occasional free memberships, and I have no notification of it when it happens, so I can't tell you when it is or when it's not. It just seems to be random, but I would love to support you further, and it helps support me in doing the work that I'm doing, at $6 a month. So, so what if you could actually stop caring what people think, right? We would stop shrinking, right? We would stop, like I was talking to Emily about, right? Stop. What was it that you said? Stop worrying about disappointing them, right? Because that's a story that you're telling yourself, that you're going to disappoint them. And by telling yourself that story, you're actually shrinking in your life and not showing up as the full person that you are, the genuine person that you are. Our relationships get more honest when we stop caring what other people think. And this is not to say we don't ever care what they think, but this is caring what they think about us so much that we make ourselves morph ourselves and become a chameleon, something that we're actually not. Yeah, our relationships get more honest. You spoke your truth. That is being honest. And so I would say in the Rockies that there was something there about that relationship that wasn't completely whole to begin with. You get your life back, right? You stop spending your time and energy managing everyone else's emotions. Everyone else's emotions, yeah. You make decisions based on what you want, not what you're afraid of, right? You're moving forward from a place of your values and what's important to you, your priorities, not what you think is important to somebody else. You stop losing sleep, replaying conversations in your head, wondering if someone's upset with you or what you should have done differently, what you could have said differently, how to go back to them now, right? You have energy again because you're not burning it out on keeping everybody else comfortable. And you start remembering who you are before you became what you thought everyone else needed or wanted you to be. So that's where I'm going to leave it for today. I appreciate you all so much for being here, joining in on the chat, adding in your comments, sharing your stories and experiences. I really, really appreciate it. The poll ended up being 50% disappointing someone I love, 25% losing the relationship, 17% being judged as selfish or mean, and now we have a vote for making them angry. So again, thank you so much. I go live every Wednesday at 2:22 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find me here. I would love to see you back here again, and love to see you, support you in the membership if that feels like something that calls to you. You can hit the join button below the video here below the live stream, and it will give you more information and give you more benefits of what's in the membership, and then you can decide from there. It doesn't automatically, take your payment as soon as you hit join. I think I've said what I need to say. Again, I appreciate you being here, and have a great week, everyone. I will see you next week or in the comments of my videos. Thanks a lot.